I started off, I think, how everyone does in any industry, just a little naive. The industry is plagued with like mystery and not understanding why things aren't working out. And I think working in management gave me better perspective on that. And being able to see some artists understand their worth, not in a pretentious, overly done way, but just understand that they are, the business that these people are trying to get, was inspiring. And it was also a reason that I ended up leaving, because I was inspired by the people that I was managing, and I realized pretty quickly that that's what I wanted to be doing. There's playing the music, and then there's performing the music, and performing the music is what the greats do. And so I would love to walk away from this tour being more comfortable as a performer.
Welcome to The Stroll Season 1. I'm your host, Sam Thompson. In this season, I'll work to engage in conversations that dive deep into the intricacies of each guest's unique career, while also bringing to light the reality of how each guest maintains their health and the professional culture they work in. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Jamis DeKay. Jamis grew up in Southern California, where he played baseball and music all throughout his childhood. Jamis went on to play varsity baseball at Yale, where Jamis and I were randomly paired together as roommates freshman year of college, and we lived together each year thereafter. At Yale, outside of baseball, Jamis was a member of Tangled Up in Blue, a folk and bluegrass music group, and also launched an EP under the name mohw, that's M-O-H-W, in 2022. Later on in his college career, he co-founded a duo group, ifsowhatfor, and the group released their first single in 2023. After graduating Yale, Jamis went on to work in talent management at Hallwood Media. At the beginning of this year, Jamis left Hallwood to go all in on his career as a musician with ifsowhatfor. At Hallwood, Jamis managed Dogpark, an indie rock band. As with many things in life, Dogpark unexpectedly needed a bassist for their spring 2025 tour, and Jamis answered the call and joined them. Currently, Jamis is back with ifsowhatfor and plays shows in New York City while continuing to make music. Lastly, the song playing in the background right now is one of Jamis' songs as mohw, so thank you, Jamis, for allowing me to use this for my podcast. Before jumping into today's episode, I'd like to briefly mention our charity partner, SOCHAVE, a federally recognized and registered 501c3 nonprofit organization. SOCHAVE is a grassroots charity organization that recently built Seminole Academy outside of Mbala, Zambia. For those who don't know, Zambia is a country in southern Africa. SOCHAVE was founded by my lifelong friend, Teza Seminole, who named the Seminole Academy after his father. Teza is a lifelong tennis player and was ATP and ITF ranked in his heyday and was a member of the Zambian Davis Cup team. He started SOCHAVE over a decade ago and went on to build Seminole Academy to give the children in his home village the opportunity to attend school. SOCHAVE emphasizes academics while also providing students with the opportunity to play sports outside of school. If you'd like to donate to SOCHAVE, the PayPal donation link can be found at sochabe.com. That's SOCHABE.com. I'd like to highlight that SOCHAVE operates with virtually no overhead. Every single penny that is donated ends up directly funding education, school maintenance and development, and equipment. When Teza travels to Zambia to visit the school, he pays for his flights out of his own pocket. Once again, you can donate at sochabe.com, that's SOCHABE.com, to support Seminole Academy and Teza's goal of bringing education to the children of his home village. Thank you. It's time to stroll. Here's my conversation with Jamis. To kick it off, I'd love to hear what got you started in music and when your interest in music first came about.
My mom got me started in music. She played me classic rock albums as probably a 6 or 7 year old. I was probably younger than I should have been listening to those albums for the first time. A lot of the songs were about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. but yeah, she introduced me to it, and then I picked up piano, and I picked up singing probably when I was seven or 8, and then started playing in bands. But that's like how it got going.
And when were you in your first band? At what age was that?
I was 8 when I was in my first band. I was part of it's called Join the Band. Some people know them as School of Rock, but it's essentially a program that just pairs young musicians who want to jam together in a group, and you play for a couple weeks, and you focus on a few covers, and there's a teacher there, and then at the end you play at a venue in Los Angeles. And so it was I look back very fondly on that program. It was great. It was a great introduction to working with other musicians in a room, especially at such a young age, and had great teachers. So.
And what was your role in your band, and what was your band called? The first ever band you were part of?
The role in my band, I was the lead singer.
Wow, okay. Spotlight.
Yeah, spotlight. and the first band was called Full Count. Yes. Because at the time, every member of the band was a baseball fan, and a Dodgers fan specifically.
And so you started around 8 years old in that, and then did it continue throughout middle school and high school? Did it ever ebb and flow, or has this always been a staple of your life and what you like to do?
It's always been a staple of my life. It continued through middle school and high school. I played in a jazz ensemble in middle school, and then I played in a pop ensemble in high school, and then I also played in bands outside of school. So it was always a big part of my life. I think it ebbed and flowed based on my involvement in baseball. There were because the goal with baseball was to play at a college level, I always had to give it priority. And so there were certain times where I would have to sacrifice either a gig or a rehearsal for baseball. But that was more on a, week to week, month to month scale rather than a life scale. There was always a band or an ensemble of some sort happening in my life, really until I got to Yale, because then Division I schedule, it's tough to be rocking on the weekends.
And when you started rocking the weekends, it was with your folk group, Tangled Up in Blue. When did that start for you, and what was your inspiration for all the different musical groups at Yale to choose one that does folk music?
That started my, I guess you would call it sophomore year, is after we came back from, everyone's breaks during COVID, and I was looking for an alternative to a cappella. No shade on a cappella. I just wanted to be able to play an instrument in the band, and I really missed playing guitar in a band. And this was one of those groups that was still Yale affiliated, really organized, had a set schedule, and I knew when performances were gonna be, but they were a little more lax about their play style and included tons of instruments. And so that's really what drew me to that group in particular, is because I wanted to play guitar.
And just to sprinkle in a little bit of context for the audience, at Yale during COVID, a lot of people ended up taking either a full gap year or a gap semester during the full-on COVID year in 2020. And so a lot of people who came in as a freshman in 2019 returned to school as a sophomore in 2021. And from all your performances in TWIB, what was your favorite song that you performed, or your favorite role to play within such a large group? Because I believe that there'd maybe be 15 or 20 artists on the stage at a time with TWIB.
Yeah, I think we averaged 17 probably on the stage, and everyone was singing. So there was almost a chorus of voices happening, and then we'd have 3 to 4 instrumentalists playing along with the song. And I loved being able to play guitar. That was my favorite role, was playing guitar and singing at the same time. Being able to jam with a mandolin player and a banjo player. Shout out Kai and Caleb and Ben Cohen. And yeah, and Lau. And
Can't forget him.
Can't forget it, the man. And so yeah, I think being able to do both at the same time was my favorite part, because that's why I joined the group. And so I loved we did a bluegrass rendition of Daddy Lessons by Beyonce. That was one of my favorite songs to play. It was really fun.
And while you were juggling your responsibilities as a baseball player, also you're in TWIB, and then you also came out with your first, I'd say, solo artist project as well at the time. What inspired you to then go ahead and pursue your own solo project as mohw in college?
I think I just wanted a creative outlet, and I had been sitting on songs for such a long time that were recorded the summer I graduated high school, and I recorded them with with a friend of mine, Houston Harrow, and who I'd known forever, and he's a talented producer, and they were just kind of sitting on my computer, and I felt like I wanted to share them with friends and family and put them on a streaming platform. And I think I also, like, halfway through college, I just missed having music be a prominent part of my life. I went in thinking that music would have to take a back seat because of how rigorous academics and athletics was. And that was true, and I'm glad I did it for the first 2 years because it kind of let me get my bearing on everything. But then, yeah, once 2 years went by without music being a big part, it was almost just like, I guess, my nature to go find it somewhere else. And so I had those songs. I just started playing with Twib, and I think just the creative juices were flowing, and I wanted to put it out.
And what's your favorite part of that whole creative process, from maybe having zero to releasing a song?
I organized an EP release party that was pretty fun, and I was able to work with a friend of mine, Reed Faulkner, who's a talented videographer, and we put together essentially just like edits that went along with the music and put them in one like cohesive, I think it was 25 minute long video, and had it projected on like a 30-foot wall at one of the like houses at Yale, and it was fun to see people reacting to the songs live because I'd spent so much time like listening to them myself and sharing them with friends and seeing, what their reactions were, but I'd never actually showcased them in front of a crowd, and I wasn't in a position to play with a band because of time and other responsibilities at school, but I knew that I wanted to show it to a lot of people, and it was great to see, live reactions of certain parts of the song and see like what people liked, what people didn't respond to, like where I would be surprised, what I expected. Yeah, that was my favorite part for sure.
That was a great release party, and
that was fun.
I think the nicest part from the first thing we talked about was both your parents, I guess, by definition, including your mom, were there, and they were there for the release party as well. I'm guessing they had probably already heard all the songs before then, or no?
They had heard all the songs. Yeah, they had heard all the songs already, and I forget why they were in New York, but they were a huge part of like organizing that and have always been really supportive. And they like the music that I make, thank goodness. And so they came down. It was myself and you were there for a lot of it, and other sweet mates of ours. Like it was very much a like family friends kind of project, and so I was really appreciative of all the support, because a lot of people helped with the setup and they kind of trusted my vision and like helped me carry it out, which was awesome.
Yeah, that event was, I'd say, a little bit or very different from the Twib performances, because the Twib performances would be in a huge, almost lecture hall, and you guys would have a sound system, and it was almost more of a concert venue. Whereas that being a house, I remember that because the songs were playing consecutively, there was definitely a lot of excitement in between the songs, but it was the video kept on rolling. Whereas I remember in some Twib performances, the baseball team would be in the back, and after you had a solo or a big part, they would just erupt, and it was like you kind of had to stop the whole thing for a minute to let them calm back down. Yeah,
it was no, they were both a great addition and a huge problem to the concert because they brought so much energy. But yeah, you did have to stop songs. So shout out baseball team. Love that energy. But yeah, they were causing a ruckus for most of the concerts. It's so funny.
If we fast forward to today, you're, I'd say, involved in one project that's been going on for a longer time. If so, what for? And then now, more recently, you've come across a very exciting opportunity to go on tour with a band. I'd love to hear maybe a little bit about If So, What For? And then I'd love to speak to you a little bit more about your involvement with this band that's going on tour in just a few weeks.
Sure. So I started If So, What For with a neighbor of mine, Nathan Koenig, and we grew up together on the same street. I've known him forever, and we kind of found out halfway through college that we had similar like electronic music tastes. Started passing like voice memos and kind of rough drafts of songs back and forth to each other. It started off with a song called Miss My Time, which I recorded with Lucas Wiseman and Balthazar Laura and John Shoulder and Nick Rice. And then I kind of brought like the initial draft to Nathan, got his take on it. And we ended up working on that and then working on more projects. And it just seemed like a collaboration that worked and we got along. And so we've been releasing for the past 2 years, honestly, at a pretty slow pace, just because both of us were full-time students. He's finishing up at Berkeley right now. We released for a long time, and just recently when I moved on from management, we both kind of agreed that this was the time to step it up, and that if we wanted to make this a career, which we absolutely do, and if we believe in the music, we need to kind of put our head down. And so in January we recorded an album, and we'll be putting it out in the summer in 2 sides, like kind of a throwback to the vinyl days of like side 1, side 2. And yeah, I think it's I'm excited because we're kind of moving into a more committed, like kind of creative vision, where it's not just releasing songs here and there and doing shows and pop-ups and seeing how it goes. It's really diving in and putting out like a full project, and that's exciting. Yeah.
How frequently will you guys be playing shows and recording when he does finish up at Berkeley and it becomes completely full time for the both of you? What does that schedule maybe look like? And
Sure.
One thing that I think is pretty crazy, and maybe before you dive into the deep end there, is how do you feel about when you text me? It's like, oh, we're going in at like 12:31 a.m. I'm like, I'm trying to get in bed by then.
Yeah, it's a pretty chaotic schedule, but it's fun. I think the recording schedule will be a couple days a week, at least, and I think because we have so much music already recorded, a lot of our time spent together in like May and June will be more around live performances and promotion for the album, because we just want to make sure people hear it. But once we get into summer, it'll be recording a couple times a week. We play shows about once a month, like once every 2 months. Right now they're DJ sets, which is fun because we make electronic music, so it fits. But in the future, we once we kind of get the project off the ground, we'd love to be playing all those songs live. And so it'll be a combination of recording during the week, setting up shows, once, twice a month to just kind of stay relevant. And the people who are following us really appreciate it. Anyone who's coming to our shows, like, honestly, it's been awesome. The reaction was more than we anticipated, and each event has been really fun. Yeah, we do play super late though. We do play late. I mean, it's I'm always excited to receive like the late slot, because I know that means the club is excited to have us and they want us to play like when everyone is at their peak party mode. But then forwarding it to friends who have supported us for a while and getting them to come out at 1 a.m. is definitely a bit of a challenge. Though I will say, a lot of people have come out and they will come and party until the early hours in the morning. So appreciate that. But it's been fun.
For somebody who isn't part of the music industry in any way, shape, or form, nor is not familiar with the creative process that goes behind music, are you and Nathan doing completely separate things within your duo, and how might that break down?
Sure. Great question. Primarily, it's split up into Nathan as a producer and an engineer, and myself as the vocalist, guitarist, and songwriter. I think we both cross over into the other person's field, which is the collaborative process, and that's like why we do it. I think Nathan is more talented like on the actual sticks than I am, and I think we both have like strengths in different parts of our like musical lexicon or like talents. But for the most part, he's engineering, he's a producer. He'll send me kind of instrumentals that are either fully fledged out songs. Sometimes he'll just send me a minute of something that he likes, and they're all synths that he's created and like sounds that he's worked on. And then if I get inspired by one of them, I pick up, which I often do because he's very good. I will go and write some lyrics to it, write a melody to it, add some like instrumental parts that I think are cool. And then after we kind of each do our own like individual brainstorming, we'll set like session dates and come together and talk about kind of the different either instrumentals or like songs that I've written that we want to go over. And it'll be a combination of us deciding, oh, I really like that instrumental that you sent me, that beat, let's flesh that out. And, you know, I've got a couple ideas for melodies, I have a couple ideas for lyrics here, versus me going to him kind of like Tangled Up in Blue style with a guitar and just saying like, I wrote this song, obviously this is just my voice and a guitar, but if we can take it and flesh it out in a produced way that sounds like kind of, you know, our inspirations and like the music that we want to make, let's see if we can do that. And yeah, it's a
And
back
that's what you're not doing. You're mainly working off of the kind of snippets that he'll send you, and then you work from there rather than you coming with a full-fledged song and saying turn it into something that's more like the If So What For brand.
It's been, I'd say probably 60-40.
Oh, interesting.
60
okay.
of him sending me like production ideas, and then us kind of fleshing them out together. And once we get into the studio, we'll rearrange things and like make decisions together. But I've also come to him, there'll be a song on the upcoming album that started off as a guitar song. The first song we put out started off as a guitar song. Most of the stuff I write comes from a folk place. I'll bring them to him with pretty much just like chord progression and vocals. But yeah, it skews more towards him having a production idea and then us collaborating on it, me adding vocals, lyrics, and so on and so forth. But every so often I'll strike gold and I'll come up with a nice tune and bring it, and so you know it's a partnership. So if he doesn't like the song, or if I don't like something he sends me, both of us have equal veto rights, which sometimes can make it difficult because there's no third party to come and be like the decider. But I think it's good because we both are honest with what we like, and if if he brings me something, he's like, this is completely fleshed out, like I just want you to add blah 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 like right here, and if I like it, like I can be like, absolutely, all right, cool, it's going on the album, and like it is an If So What For song, and there's no ifs and or buts about it. The same way that I can come to him and be like, this is a whole song, but it's only going to sound like an If So What For song if you put your synths on it, if you like go into the box and actually make the fully produced version. And that is still like a form of collaboration that both of us enjoy. And so yeah, there are a lot of processes in which we do it, but it's very collaborative.
Yeah, it seems like you guys are working well in terms of the full spectrum of collaboration, in terms of letting each other take the roads that you each want to take, whether it's maybe more of like a solo road to arrive somewhere and someone else is just sprinkling their final touches on it, or hey, we're going to walk this hand in hand and create together start to finish. Mm-hmm. What are the different roles between you two when you're actually performing on the deck? I have no idea what goes on the deck, but you guys have two of you up there. Is that something that you need two people to do? One person could theoretically do it. And do you guys actually maybe even practice the way you're going to play when you're up there?
So we have practiced before. There are a couple studios in New York that will just have CDJs, which are like club level decks. And we've done it a couple times, but only a couple times, because normally, he drives down from Boston, and like the next day we're playing a show. And so we've only done it a few times, but it's definitely something, DJing is something that you can do on your own. I think the reason that we like to do it together is honestly because it's more fun. And it's more fun to just I think just do all of these things together, like make music, play shows, like kind of go through the whole process. Like, what's that saying? Like, if you want to go somewhere fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. Like, I really do feel that in music more than anything. The reason I love it is because it's collaborative. And so, anyways, I'm getting off track. But on the actual decks, we have a loose structure of back-to-back or B2B in the DJ community, which is essentially just mixing in a song and then allowing the other person to mix in the next song, because we've gotten familiar with each other's like mixing styles. And also, I think in general, if one of us hears something or has an idea, like neither of us are afraid to reach over on the other side and like do something. But that's more improv and less planned. We kind of go into it structuring a set list, having more tracks than is necessary for our time slot, just in case we want to chop things up or play half a song or play just a verse or do a drop or something like that. And then we'll just agree on the first song that we're playing. And after that, we just trade off pretty much. And the collaboration comes from improvising. So it'll be a trade-off until someone has an idea, and then it'll be like a collaborative drop or a collaborative mix or something like that. Or like, oh, loop that right there, and then I'll put on reverb, and then you'll do this, and like, so I'd say that's the general structure.
Yeah, that sounds like a good way to go about things in terms of having that structure, but then opening the door for further collaboration. And I love the proverb you threw in there. That was actually my senior year high school yearbook quote.
No way.
Yeah,
really? That's awesome.
Yeah, if you
I find it really truthful, honestly.
If you want to run fast, run alone. If you want to run far, run together.
It's true. It really is. And it applies to everything, as you know. But I love it in music, and I try to apply it as much as possible.
And you touched on this a little bit early in our conversation. I'd love to come back to it a little bit. But you mentioned the year you worked in management within the industry. What exactly were you doing on the management side of things for that year? And then how has that potentially informed the way you are maybe approaching things with If So What For, and maybe taught you a little bit more about another side of the industry?
For the 2024 calendar year, I worked remotely in New York for a management company that's based in Los Angeles, and I was a manager of bands, DJs, and producers, and I was also a talent scout. So I had the ability to go and find artists that I wanted to manage and manage them myself, in addition to being assigned to projects that required multiple managers because of the workload or anything else, just kind of how you get assigned to projects in any job. And so I did a combination of those. I managed a few DJs. I managed a DJ named Nog, shout out Nog. I managed Isaac Wright, Dogpark, which we can come back to. I managed them with my boss at the time, who that was like one of the artists who was already a part of the company when I arrived, and they're a priority client and had a lot going on, and so they needed extra hands, and that was kind of how I was looped into them. And along with a couple other really talented artists, and I ended up managing 15 to 20 at any given time. So
how would that even break down? 15 to 20 different artists? Is that, I mean, if you break down, maybe if you were working 50 hours a week, if you have 20 artists, that's like only maybe 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours per. Yeah. So what are you doing for each artist? And would it be like a certain week, you need to do a lot for a given artist to, help them get set for the next few months? And I'm sure also maybe for the popularity of the artist, there's a different workload as well.
Sure. So for it really depended artist to artist. They all had different needs for management. So for example, Dogpark, five member band, they were touring. They tour pretty frequently, and so most of my work was on the touring side, making sure that all the shows were settled correctly, that the band got paid, that we were invoicing as a management company for our commission on whatever they were making on the shows and on the merch. getting them set up with photographers at each show, making sure the run of show was correct, like when they were going to load in, when they were going to do sound check. A lot of facilitation, and that was my primary role on their management team, I'd say, from a day-to-day standpoint. And then once a week we'd have a catch-up with their label and just talk about general goals and ambitions for the band. That would range anywhere from setting them up with a producer to do like a week of recording to planning out a release schedule, like leading up to an EP or an album. We're gonna do this single this month, this single next month, and then we'll drop 2 music videos to get the fans ready, and then we'll put out the album afterwards. So so that was for like a client that was touring, moving. It was very involved. It took up a lot of my time. And then another example would be I managed to manage some producers and 2 DJs, and the two DJs was mostly release schedule, trying to find them features for their work, pitching them to different electronic record labels. Like indie labels are constantly taking kind of just they'll take anyone's track and they'll listen to it, and if it's something that they feel aligns with their vision as a label, they'll put it out. Or if they feel like the artist has enough of a following that it'll be beneficial to them, they'll put it out. And so I was trying to middleman all of those relationships and either get in touch with those labels and share the music to try and get like marketing support or some sort of advance just to put some money in their pocket. And then range from that to like going to their shows in New York and just supporting them and trying to be there for them as good of a manager as I could be, and meet as many people at their shows, try and understand their world, try and understand their like artistic vision. So that was a lot of the work.
And would you say that you are managing If So What For now, and your work with this management label has really allowed you to help almost yourself and Nathan as If So What For?
Definitely. Yeah. I would say that I'm managing us now. We are self-managed. I would definitely be open to representation. I would just kind of have to make sure that it's the right fit. But I learned so much from my year at Hallwood, which is the management company, that I felt like I could do it for as long as I kind of had the bandwidth to. And yeah, I learned a lot. Learned a lot about release schedules. I think I also just learned perspective on the industry. And I started off, I think how everyone does in any industry, just a little naive, and then came away understanding that the music industry it's a really social and face-to-face industry, but at the end of the day, it is, record labels are just another business. Same with management companies, and music is the product, and it's however you can get it in front of as many people as possible. And so kind of understanding that, and also understanding the live side of like selling tickets, I think put me in a better position mentally to accept rejection, because I knew like why I was being rejected. I think that's the industry is plagued with like mystery and not understanding why things aren't working out. And I think working in management gave me better perspective on that. That, if you reach out to a promoter and you want to DJ a certain club, you have to have an ability to prove that you will sell a certain amount of tickets. And as an artist, you don't want to be doing that because you just want to focus on the music. That's why you have your manager or your booking agent do it. But just like any other business, showing your ticket sales history in a city goes a really long way. And it shows people that you can sell tickets in that city. And that's just something I would have never really thought of before I went into management, because I kind of had that like artist mindset of like, oh, if they love the music, they'll put you on stage anywhere. Like if you have the talent, like they'll find a way. And that is true. Like the talent is really important. But at the end of the day, it's also just like people trying to make a living. And so if it's an independent venue, you just got to show them, hey, we can sell these many tickets, and the great part of that is that my success rate went up because I actually understood like, oh, I'm not going to get into that venue, but I can get in here because I know that like this many people will come and see our show. And yeah, it's been interesting because now I'm trying to suppress like that side of my brain because I want to really be more artistic and about the music. But it is helpful to have it in the back of my head during all of this.
Any other voices that have kind of arisen and maybe been built up within yourself as a result in working for management? So maybe that's a little bit more of a voice on the business side of things and understanding how you actually might end up getting into a venue, but any other perspectives that you've developed as a result of working in management?
Sure. One of the perspectives I developed was that in the current day and age in 2025 and last year in 2024, artists are really smart and they understand the business more than I anticipated. Kind of gone are the days of the ignorant musician who has no idea what's going on and just signs any contract. Like it's widely known that you need to read your contracts and that you need to know what an advance is in order to not get screwed over by a record label. Like all of that information is accessible and available. And so I developed like a real appreciation for artists who were dealing with big companies, and I developed an appreciation for the artists who were respectful but assertive and knew what they wanted, and weren't afraid to ask for it, and also weren't afraid to say no. It's really powerful to say no in Hollywood because like everyone just wants to like, yes, of course, I'll do whatever you want. Like, oh, absolutely, I'll play here, I'll do it for free, or whatever. And being able to see some artists understand their worth, not in a pretentious, like overly done way, but just understand that they are, the business that these people are trying to get, was inspiring. And it was also a reason that I ended up leaving, because I was inspired by the people that I was managing, and I realized pretty quickly that that's what I wanted to be doing. Yeah.
And you mentioned you've been inspired by the people you were managing. You said that the main, I think, commitment that you had on, I would say, a weekly, monthly, in your year there basis was for the band Dogpark. Were you actually with them on tour as a manager, given that you were saying they were frequently touring and, they were bringing in so much business to your firm?
I only went to a couple dates with them. So I was on tour with them for 4 days. I drove a Sprinter van from New York to where were they? New York to Tennessee. They were coming from Los Angeles because they had 2 weeks of recording with a producer that their label had set them up with in Los Angeles, and we met in Tennessee. I drove their band van down with all of their equipment, and then they did a show in Tennessee, and then they did a show in Louisville, and then we ended with New York and Philadelphia. And so I wasn't there with them for the entire thing. They were on tour for almost 3 months, but I did get a taste of it, and it was cool. It was a cool experience.
And to interrupt for a second, when you say driving the Sprinter van, was the whole band in there with all their equipment? Was it just their equipment? Were they sleeping in this van? Were they sleeping on a bus? Paint that picture a little bit more.
I was driving. So when I met them, I was alone, and I just had all of their stuff with me, and I drove down, and then I met up with them, and then when we met up, we did shifts, and so the tour structure was drive in the van, stay at a hotel, so on and so forth. So no one was ever sleeping in the van. Thank goodness. but it was like a shifts of driving, and we drove 14 hours yesterday.
Wow.
To get to New York from Alabama. This is a different show, but yeah, that's the breakdown. It's just kind of all hands on deck.
So Jamis and Dogpark roll up. They get to Alabama. How quickly after you'd arrive at the venue are you playing the show?
We arrived at 6 to
a.m. or p.m.
p.m. We arrived to the venue at 6 p.m. to do a sound check at 7:30 to play a show at 10.
Wow. That's a pretty quick turnaround.
Super quick turnaround. Yeah. So the show was 10 to 12:30, and then we packed up and we drove 2 hours to Atlanta afterwards.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So that was Tennessee to Atlanta?
It was this one was Alabama to Atlanta. We were in
Okay.
Auburn. Yeah, playing a college like gig.
And then from, I'm guessing, that experience with them while you were managing them, now they floated you this opportunity. It seems like maybe around a month ago. You want to
Yeah.
tell the audience a little bit about
Yeah, sure.
that opportunity and what you're about to do in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I managed them I co-managed them for a year, and then, as I said, I left the management company in January to pursue music full time, and just about a month ago, their drummer reached out saying that their bassist went solo. He has a folk solo career, and that they were going on tour. They were looking for someone, and asked if I played bass, and I told him yes, but it's been a while, and I gotta grab a bass, and I gotta start strumming and kind of figure stuff out. But they gave me like a little over a week to learn their discography and some covers, and we rehearsed kind of all of last week in preparation for this show. And no, I was flattered. It was very cool. They offered to take me on the road, which was really cool. I've never been on the road, so I'm excited to do it. And yeah, they needed a bassist. Stepped in. Luckily, they thought my talents were adequate enough to be a part of the group. And so starting on a week from Tuesday, we'll start a 22-date tour. So
Back to the Sprinter.
Back to the Sprinter van. Yes, back to the Sprinter. So we'll be it'll be us and a tour manager in a 12-seat Sprinter van, and we'll be going all throughout like the Southeast and pretty much in the South, opening for a blues guitarist named Marcus King, who's a beast. He's so good. And yeah, it'll be with a couple like headline dates sprinkled in there, and then a festival called Love and Life, which should be fun. And yeah, I'm super excited. I've never been on the road. It's been a while since I've played in front of crowds, and I miss it. I love DJing, but there's something different about like playing an instrument in front of people. And it was a good, I think, playing at a college was a good like warm up. And now we're getting ready to hit the road, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm super pumped and appreciative that they gave me that opportunity. And yeah, I'm really excited. It'll be sick.
It seems like it will also give you a whole nother view on the music industry and really allow you to have kind of one more point of reference in terms of informing your future work with If So What For beyond that. And I'm curious, what is maybe an element or two of actually being the artist on tour that you're most excited for?
Honestly, like I love being able to put 100% of my mental capacity into playing a show. And like that is the most important thing, is actually getting on stage and playing the music that the people paid tickets to hear. Management, it was completely flipped. Like once the band was on stage, it was like, okay, I could take a breather. They're going to play for 2 hours and I don't really need to think about anything because they're up there and there's nothing else to do right now. It's all the leading up to the show responsibilities that I will be happy to forego. And then the logistics, there are tons of logistics that go into playing a tour. You got to book hotels, you got to route how many hours you're going to drive on what days. And that's all management. That's all management's job. And so I'm excited to be the part of the group that's actually doing the thing, as opposed to like on the outside organizing the thing, if that makes sense. Those are very like vague words, but yeah, playing the show will be at the forefront of my mind, and that'll be what's most important, as opposed to making sure that the photographer shows up on time and that the guest list is perfect and that the band has the right amount of snacks and drinks in their green room. That would be at the forefront of my mind as a manager. And those are all things that like I will not be worried about.
And now you get to also be managed by the company
That's
that
right,
you were previously managing for.
Now we're coming full circle. Honestly, I was curious to see how they reacted. I I've yet to speak with my previous boss like one on one, and I'm sure I'll see him on the road. He supported me when I told him what I wanted to do. He was really awesome about it, and just said like, absolutely follow your dreams. Like this, if this is what you want to do, you should go do it. And so I heard from the band that when they told them, they were hyped about it and like, oh, cool. Like, that's like sick. Like, who would have thought, we'd be in this position, which was honestly the best reaction possible. I never wanted them to think that I was like, scheming or something like that. And yeah, so it's all good vibes, honestly, which is great. It is kind of funny that I'm now being managed by like my previous employer. I think it's just like funny how life works that way. Yeah, makes me appreciative that I decided to try that avenue, to try management, to like give that job a shot, because I wouldn't be in this position if I didn't do it.
And does Jamis DeKay have any superstitions as an artist for before he performs or so on and so forth?
I do have a couple. There's if I'm singing, there's like a spray, like a throat spray that's a little numbing that I'll always put in. I need to wear earplugs. I gotta protect. And then other than that, I think just I'll do like some mindfulness stuff, like breathing techniques if I get really nervous. But nothing crazy. So
I almost want to pick a bone with you there. Yeah. So also with your If So What For performances, are you putting in earbuds or earplugs?
No, I'm not putting in earplugs for those, which honestly I should be doing, because sometimes the monitors, normally the speakers are facing out towards the audience, obviously. So the actual like impact is not as strong on my ears as opposed to playing in Dogpark where the amp is behind you, and like, even if it's mic'd up towards the audience, you're getting all of that, sound from the amp that's like 10 feet away from you. But every so often you'll get monitors, which are, I guess for anyone who doesn't know, monitors are smaller speakers that are set up facing the artist so that they can hear themselves. And the monitors in DJ booths can get really, really loud because the club is loud, the lights are distracting, like you want to be able to hear yourself. And so I should start wearing earplugs more consistently. But most of the time I have headphones on, so I'm really like I'm getting protection that way.
Yeah, I'm such like I don't know what the perfect word for it is.
Yeah.
But whenever I'm in or have been, I haven't been honestly in a while, but in a club and there's a DJ playing, I'm always like, the speakers are facing me. So they'll like crank up the volume and my ears are like ringing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, from behind the speaker, it probably doesn't sound that loud.
But in front.
And then, friends' house parties too. Like someone will get on the decks and then I like look over and it's like, why is like, I can barely speak right now and we're at like a house party.
No, that is true. That's honestly, that's one of the like the most important, I think, skills to have as a DJ, is to be able to read like what the room calls for, because there's nothing worse than being at a house and like turning up the volume all the way and then all of a sudden the party's ruined. But no, I feel you on that. If people are turning it up that loud, normally there's you can see your levels on the mixer. So if you're clipping, which is, you might know this as running a podcast, like once you get into the red, you know that it's actually not enjoyable to hear that. It's like causing bad frequencies and potentially blowing out the speaker. So you try not to, but yeah, that is definitely a skill. The last show we played, we got in trouble a couple times because we were turning it up too loud. So we were going back and forth with the venue, but it was still fun.
Zooming out a little bit now, one thing that I've heard from a few people in life more generally, not necessarily on this podcast, is that hobbies are really great for your mental health and your wellness. But then once you turn a hobby into maybe something that becomes more of a career and a job, it can kind of change your outlook on it. Sure. What are you doing maybe outside of music to kind of keep yourself holistically prepared and mentally prepared to go in and be yourself and be Jamis DeKay when you come into either If So What For or Dogpark?
Totally. That's a great question. I I think spending time with loved ones is honestly like the best way to stay grounded. Friends, family, roommates, calling family members like a couple times a week just to stay in touch. Yeah, it reminds me that there is that I have a lot of support in my life, and I'm super grateful for that. But it also just reminds me that no matter how crazy, the music industry, or like being in a Sprinter van and, driving around the South, like whatever it is, playing in a club with loudspeakers, I'm just doing it because I love it. And at the end of the day, it's about like those people, and that's what makes life worth living. And so as long as I can always have those relationships, I think I'll be able to stay grounded throughout all of this. And so far, I haven't had the moment of feeling like the hobby is turning into something I don't like. It's still music is still something I'm really excited about. It's very new, and I'm just trying my best to compartmentalize, the work and the music, because there is a lot of back and forth between the preparation and the logistics, the things I learned as a manager, and then the actual art itself, which is sitting down in the studio, making a song that you're really proud of, playing it in front of people, like having a solid live performance. Those are kind of two things that I try to keep separate in my brain. And yeah, it's been good so far. I'm going to try and keep it going. Hopefully, at the end of the day, those are good problems to have. If I'm trying to stay in touch with all the people I love with my life while pursuing, a passion of mine, a hobby that has now turned into a potential career, hopefully. So we'll see. Yeah.
And what is one goal that you maybe have within your career that has kind of maybe been there from the back? Is there any sort of venues you want to play? Is there, I don't know, something you maybe dreamed of, I think it was Full Count as 8 years old, that kind of in the back of your mind, you're still thinking, that's something I want to hit?
Yeah. I think I want to play more than anything else. I want to play the Forum, which is a venue in Los Angeles that is so like close to my heart, because if anyone came to town, like they were probably going to play at the Forum, unless they were a Taylor Swift or Beyonce level act. And even then, sometimes if they wanted to play a football stadium, they would go to a football stadium. But most of the artists that I see would play at the Forum, and the Forum is the old Lakers, like Magic Johnson era basketball stadium, and they converted it into a concert space. And it's so cool. It's in Inglewood, and it has like these huge kind of arches around it. It looks like a Greek like sculpture, and it just has so much history. And like playing a hometown show there would be. I'd be good. I could like that would be my peak for sure.
And maybe building to that in the next few months, what is your overall goal, or what you want to take away from your tour with Dogpark that you might then bring back to If So What For, and really kind of help you along that journey and that dual artist project?
I think the biggest thing that I want to take away is stage presence and like playing in front of a crowd, because it's something that you only get through experience. And there are always things that go wrong in the middle of a show, and being able to improvise and like fix that in the middle of a show is something that you learn from experience. And so I really just hope to take away like a sense of comfort of playing a show consistently, like day in and day out, for so long. This will be the longest period of time that I will play the same show over and over and over again. And that's something I have never done before. And so I hope by the end of it that I would like to kind of reach a level of comfort on stage where I'm no longer thinking about the performance itself, and I'm just in terms of like the technicalities of like the songs that we're playing, and I'm just thinking about like, how can I make this the most entertaining show for the audience? Because that I think is like the next level up for live performers. Like there's playing the music, and then there's performing the music, and performing the music is what like the greats do. And so I would love to walk away from this tour being more comfortable as a performer in addition to being a musician.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Stroll. If you like this episode and would like to be in the loop for future episodes while also supporting the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast here and follow the podcast on social media for updates. Our Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are thestroll_podcast, and our X account is thestroll_pod. I'd like to give another big thank you to Jamis for coming on the podcast and being willing to speak so openly about his career journey thus far. Thank you again for listening. Much love, one love. And here's Jamis's guitar riff to take us on home.